Thursday, February 5th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Does it feel like energy bills are getting higher and higher? Today on the show, we're going to talk money and also efficiency, how to make our homes more energy efficient, and ways to possibly afford that. From, home renovations, thinking about your home, right? Like how energy efficient is it? What kind of a difference can that make? I mean, that's part of the conversation today. And then also tips on ways to possibly save some money. It's not going to be for everyone, but it's going to be for some folks. And there's a big old range we're going to talk about. We're going to have that too. So it's kind of like a financial literacy show, and an energy efficiency show, and a saving money show all together. And I've got some great guests to talk about it. And if you have questions, you can call us or email us or text us. And sometimes people even text my own phone. So any number of ways. Don't phone my phone because I can't answer that while I'm on the air. But texts 709-327-8206, The Signal at cbc.ca. The numbers, as you probably know, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Ashley Smith, we'll start with you, Program Director for SHIFT. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Expand.
Yes, absolutely. So folks may have heard us on your show previously, but just to reiterate, the SHIFT program is a free service for residents of the City of St. John's, offering guidance around undertaking energy efficiency renovations for your home.
And with today, given it's a provincial audience, these we'll talk about the SHIFT program and like that guidance you just talked about, that's free. But a lot of what we're going to talk about today, that can be applied to anyone across the province for the need to know, might be nice to know information.
Absolutely. Physics and financial literacy apply outside of the boundary of the City of St. John's.
Yeah, physics. Yeah,
Physics.
I mean, it's that's a known scientific fact, I think.
It is, yeah.
Morgan Winter, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Adam?
Good. Tell us again, Home Energy Navigator. Tell us about what you do.
So when you go through the SHIFT program, you can go through our website at maketheshiftnl.ca. You can book an appointment, and the person you're talking to will probably be me. So I'll ask you some questions about your home, and you start off with an energy audit that we offer at a subsidized rate of $99. And from there, we have scheduled follow-up calls, emails. If you have questions about your home and the audit itself, I'll be the one talking you through it step by step, and we offer, like Ashley said, that guidance along the way in any facet.
Yeah, it's for the initial energy audit, $99, about 80% off the normal price, is it?
Sure is.
Yeah.
Depending on the size of the home, $500, $600, something like that,
Okay.
for a limited time.
Limited time, while supplies last.
While supplies last, contact us now.
Because I love doing these because this is, you're going to get all the info on this show, but we did an initial one around this. What kind of calls have you been taking? Like, what have the calls been like?
Well, when we were here, it was the official launch day. So from that point, I think I've been in contact with over 100 homeowners from the city, some outside the city as well who are interested. We aren't just in the city so far, but I just take their information if we ever are expanding in the future. But yeah, I have been talking to people from all walks of life, people who are new homeowners, people who want to pass on their homes to their children, their grandchildren, and just helping them, offering guidance on what energy efficiency looks like in their home specifically.
Cool. All right. There's some stuff we can unpack through the course of the 55 minutes of this show. Separate from the SHIFT program, but also here in studio, included with us for the show from my invite, Rob Tizzard is here. So we're talking financial literacy. Rob is a financial advisor with NewFound Wealth Advisors. Welcome back. It's been a while. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Because when we're thinking of doing a show like this, and when we're talking about energy efficiency, I find, and actually me and you talked about this, in recent years, there's always mini split heat pump conversation, right? Trying to save money. The picture, though, is much bigger than that, depending on the house, what it's like, how much money you have. Not everyone can afford it. you're here to talk about financial literacy. Hit us with something right away for an idea around, maybe it's the, I don't know, the mortgage insurance bit.
That's a big one.
Yeah, see, I knew you,
Yeah,
I knew
that's
you
a
wanted
big
to talk.
one.
I could feel you were bursting to talk about it.
That one keeps me up at night.
Okay, so what is it?
So a lot of the issues that we find with financial literacy training and financial literacy in Canada is simply the gatekeeping that's done by a lot of the large financial providers. And when banks are like Tim Hortons, that you can kind of wander into one in multiple locations, they become the primary voice of the information that consumers receive. And one of the big things, and the CBC did an expose on this. I think it was, I mentioned it. I think
Yeah,
it
it
was
was Marketplace a while ago,
Marketplace,
yeah.
yeah. So essentially, what a lot of people don't understand is that if you go in to get a mortgage, the bank will ask you if you want mortgage insurance. What people don't realize is that the expense goes up every 5 years as you renew, even though you're paying the mortgage down. So you're reducing the amount of coverage that you have as you pay the loan off. The price increases. You don't get to choose the beneficiary. You're actually paying for the lender to guarantee their own loan, and you don't qualify until after you've died. So you could pay the
That doesn't sound
I know.
great. I'm not a money person, but that to me sounds like there could be other ways to think about things.
Yeah, so they use a system called postmortem underwriting. I don't mean to be technical, but essentially
sounds
it's
ghoulish.
You qualify when you're dead, and the applications are normally just initials.
How can I spend that though if I qualify when I'm dead?
Well, yes, and also how do you, even if you pay off the loan and you have a spouse, for example, let's say best case scenario, the home is paid off. What do you do then?
Yeah.
So now you're sitting in an asset, but you still have your bills coming up next month. But the payout is very low on mortgage insurance through the lender. So we talk a lot about, essentially we try to lift the veil of other things that are out there and who's best in class, because we're not captive. So we have 27 different companies that we have access to. Essentially, we're like a mortgage broker on steroids. We could take you to companies all across the country. Some are international that offer best in service, best in price, best in quality. And really, the average calculation on individual insurance versus mortgage insurance is you would qualify, if you qualify, of course. It's always based on whether you smoke, your height, weight, your sex, and medical conditions. Once you qualify, it's normally a quarter of the price. It doesn't increase throughout the duration of the mortgage because you could get it for 20 years, and you choose how the payout occurs. So you choose if it goes to your spouse, you choose if it goes to your spouse and your children. So and the amount doesn't decrease. So if you buy $500,000 in insurance and you pass away, God forbid, of course, that $500,000 goes to your spouse. Your spouse can then decide whether they want to pay off the mortgage, whether they want to hold on to that money and invest it, how they want to use it for the children's education, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, tell me how much, like roughly, or give me an example, right? Give me a scenario around how, if you were to make this switch, a home or a family or a person can save money monthly, and what that could mean for like the monthly savings of what they're paying when you look at what you would be paying for mortgage insurance compared to what you just laid out.
I have that on my phone.
Yeah.
I actually did do an illustration and an example. Could you come back to me in a minute? I have to pull it up.
Okay.
I just don't want to.
No. So you pull that up.
I can give you the exact numbers. I've done it.
And we'll so we'll pin that for a second, because like everyone's like, well, Adam, why are we going into mortgage insurance, but we're talking about home energy efficiency and saving money? It's like, well, with what Rob's going to talk about, if there are ways to save money, then perhaps even for starting something like an energy audit for $99, or if it's not reduced, for a few $100s, saving money in one place can help you pay for it in another. If I get an energy audit done, why does that matter for my home?
I can probably speak to that, Ashley, as I'm the one who will go through that with homeowners. So the way we start our interaction in the program is with an energy audit, because it essentially is the process where a service organization will go into your home. They do diagnostic tests that will show you exactly where your home is losing heat, where it's losing energy, and it will provide you with a homeowner information sheet, which kind of looks like gibberish to the normal person, because it's just all the insulation, all the R values, there's so many different percentages that looks like nothing if you're not used to it. But then there's also the energy report, which is basically a itemized list based in order of importance that shows you, say, start out with air sealing, attic insulation, foundation insulation, if you should get a heat pump or upgrade your heating system in the home. It's a great starting point for a homeowner, especially if they're not exactly sure where they're feeling drafts. They know they're losing energy. They see their energy bills. They see they're going up, but they don't know where to start. Yeah. And so this is a really great starting point for them to kind of get a full idea of what's going on in their home.
Yeah, because you don't want your home to be a leaky bucket. Exactly. When it comes to heat, right? You want to keep all the stuff, in this case heat, or like, like the water in the bucket. And if it's a colander, then you got a problem, right? Like, which some homes could be. And other ones, maybe just one little leak and that could be plugged easier. But understanding that range of how much like your home, which your home bucket is leaking, is really important, because you want to keep everything inside, and then that helps prices go down, right?
Exactly. Especially homes in St. John's, especially homes in downtown St. John's, because we see a lot of older homes, heritage homes, who, especially homes before the 50s and 60s, oftentimes there's not a lot of insulation in the walls.
No, I mean, old evening telegrams can only go so far for keeping the heat in, exactly. And that's true. Like you do open up walls and you find newspapers in some of them, like
13 layers.
13 layers of newspapers. Right?
Same with mine.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that used to be the way. Nowadays, there's differences. Actually, I mentioned about heat pumps. Like, if you remember our conversation leading up to this show, or parts of it, just talk to me about why heat pumps may not be for everyone, and why it's important to do what we're talking here now about understanding how leaky your house is and keeping heat in, and why these options are important to think about.
Absolutely. So you have to think of your house as a system, right? Yeah. So how much your home costs to heat is related to how much insulation you have in your what we call the building envelope, which is your walls and your attic and your foundation. And then how you're providing the heat to that space. So those are the two sides of how much it costs you to heat your home. And so if you have a colander, it's going to cost you more, because air will come in, air will go out, and you have to heat it every time that happens. If you have a bucket with a really screwed tight lid, like a watertight lid, even if you turn it upside down, you're only heating one volume of air in your house. And so when we look at the energy audits that are done for folks, and so we start there, because making a decision about what to do with your home is complex in general. You have to understand what your options are, understand how to prioritize those options, understand the pricing for the options, and then understand how that's going to fit with your household's financial context.
And with reality, right? Yeah.
Well, and with how are you going to pay for this? Where are you going to find this in your life? Are you only in the house for 5 years? Are you looking to leave it to a child or a grandchild? Are you in it for the next 30 years? Have you just bought a house? Those are all really critical considerations when making a good quality decision for your house, because a lot of the renovations are not inexpensive. And so we advocate for, wherever possible, to improve your building envelope. So increase the insulation in your house, because necessarily that will reduce the size of the equipment that is used to heat the home. So if you have a lower heating demand, you will use a smaller sized heat pump, or a smaller sized electric baseboard, or a smaller sized oil boiler. But it doesn't matter what source of energy, whether it's electricity or oil or propane, any of those options just create the heat. And there's pros and cons to all of them. And we don't push folks in any individual or particular direction. We're trying to provide enough information that a household can make a well-informed and high-quality decision for them.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we're
it's based on each individual family and what you can afford. And, if you're looking at something from air sealing, insulation, window replacement, different water heating upgrades, all this type of a thing. Do I get a heat pump? What am I doing from converting from oil heat to perhaps a heat pump or whatever else, right? Also depending on the layout of your house too,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Like maybe a heat pump won't do as much compared to other things.
100%.
Yeah, because I enjoy having this conversation because like I said, for the longest while, it felt like everyone's like heat pump, and not to dismiss it, right? Like,
Absolutely not.
but also, you got to have money to afford one.
Well, yeah. And it's not like, so heat pumps are effective in the sense that, so electric baseboards are called 100% efficient. So that means like 1 kilowatt hour, think of it like a marble, like 1 kilowatt hour of electricity comes in and you get like that volume of marble heat. It's 100% efficient.
Yeah.
With a heat pump, 1 kilowatt hour marble that comes in turns into like 3 marbles of heat because you use a refrigerant and a compressor. So that's good. You get like a 3-to-1 on what you're paying for. You get 3 heat for 1 kilowatt hour that you've paid for. That's good. Having that be as small as possible because you've addressed your envelope is even better, because that 1 marble and 1 into 3 marbles will bring you even more heat if your envelope is tight.
Because no matter what, if you got a leaky bucket for a house, you're losing your marbles.
That's I've lost my marbles so long ago.
Yeah, and I mean, all of us every day, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the money side of it.
Yes.
Remind us, for if folks are just tuning in, about what we were talking about when it comes to mortgage insurance.
So if you can go to any bank in Canada and you can search up their mortgage insurance rates, they'll have a chart. What they do is it's based on cost per thousand borrowed. This is just, again, we focus 90% on education, 10% implementation. So I apologize if I don't just give you the number, but I just want people to
Educate
know that,
me. I like being educated.
Okay, so this stuff is publicly available. You can pick any color bank you want. They will have it on all their websites. So essentially what happens is, because we are structured into mortgages of 5-year bands, which is what most of us deal with, right? You go in and you get a renewal for the next 5 years. And I'm not going to get into amortization and all the other stuff that happens behind the scenes that cost us money. But when we do that, they calculate the amount that you've paid off and then they put you in the next rate band. So what I did was, I originally, when I do this presentation for the Newfoundland Public Libraries, I did this quote, and essentially for this one I used the blue, which is BMO, and they're all the same. So for 2 people, I put them at age 30.
Yep.
I said that they bought a $200,000 house. I know. So the cost goes up every 5 years. So I calculated a $20,000 reduction within 5 years. I thought that was reasonable. So in the first 5 years, it costs them $2,640 in their insurance. So this is a group plan. So both of them are insured on the same contract. And at that cost, it was $44 a month. So when they go back in 5 years later, it goes from $44 to $61 a month. And they spend another $3,672 over those 5 years. Then they go back at age 41, and it goes up to $76.80, which costs another $46.08. And then it goes up to $95.20, and now it costs another $5,700. So their total over 20 years was $16,632 in mortgage insurance. Again, unknowing if it's going to be paid out because they don't qualify until they die. And number 2, the cost increases and the lender is the actual beneficiary. So what I did was I did a random carrier. So I just picked a carrier at random, not necessarily the cheapest one in Canada, not necessarily the best value. And I created 2 $250,000 policies. So instead of them having just $200,000 in perceived coverage, they actually have $500,000 combined. And the entire cost over the 20 years was $78.84, so $7,884. So that would cost $18.90 for John. I gave them John and Amy as names, and $13.95 for Amy. And it will not increase over the 20 years. They pay the same amount. The amount that they get for their beneficiary remains the same, but the issue is convenience.
Yeah.
Right? We're often sold on convenience. I mean, we've all experienced AI chatbots, 1-800 numbers that go to different countries. All that convenience costs us, and we don't realize it because it's never explained.
Yeah.
So if you're going into the bank or if you have a mortgage and you have mortgage insurance, you can look at your statement and you will see the cost. You need to find somebody. You can ask the bank, but you're probably going to get the same answers, but you need to find somebody that's going to give you a quick quote. It takes less than 5 minutes. You should have somebody you can just text. And and you can find out online. You can even go online. There's lots of online apps that will allow you to do a quick quote and find out just how much you could be saving, because it's substantial per month.
Yeah. Well, this is the point. Like, 'cause when we're talking about ways to save, like, 'cause we're all trying to figure out ways to stretch our dollars here now. So if there's ways to save money, and we'll talk perhaps about, if you do need to take out a loan, or also using perhaps some of the value from your home when it comes to, again, looking at what's best for you and your home to figure out what's more energy efficient. What can we do with the envelope or the heating and all of that kind of a thing to save money, be warmer, cooler in summer, and everything else. So Morgan, let's go back to some of the calls again. Like, what's the range of folks who are calling? Like, are they talking about their heat bills right away, or like what is it or is it just curiosity around what they can do?
More often than not, I don't find that heat bills are the main topic of conversation, because people really just want to know what's going on with their home specifically, because in our follow-up calls, they have already had basically an interview with an energy auditor.
Right.
So they have someone going into their home. They're talking through everything that they're doing. They're telling them about the blower door tests. They're telling them about thermal imaging, and they're showing them different areas of their home that, they get them to put their hand next to a door that they didn't realize was, that's where the draft is coming from. So they're already informed on a base level of what is going on from an auditor's perspective, and then they receive this whole report in their email, and they will want someone to kind of talk them through what it all means. And I find that after a conversation with myself, our whole goal is to kind of bridge that gap between energy efficiency upgrades and making it more accessible for people who don't have the breadth of knowledge that, say, Rob and Ashley do. Because I can't speak to the financial aspect. I can't speak to the very specific upgrades that you can, the options for, your wall insulation and what's going on in your wall cavity and that kind of thing. But I can speak to homeowners on a personal level and access different contacts for them and put them in the right avenues to figure out what is going on and how they can fix it. So if that answers your question, it's not always about it's not always about the heating bills, but it's just about making their home comfier. It's making their home feel like home and not like this place that they're spending an arm and leg to heat because they they don't really know what's going on.
Well, 100%, right? Like anyone who, we talked earlier about older homes, if you're living in downtown St. John's, and it doesn't have to just be in downtown St. John's. We're across Newfoundland and Labrador, older homes built to different specifications. And a lot of people will know. It's not even about like putting your hand to one little part of like a window or something. It's like, no, I can just put my hand up in the middle of the living room and I can feel the draft, right? Yeah. Like, so this is a way of talking about comfort. But also, actually, it's a climate change conversation we're having too, right?
It is, yeah. So we're seeing significant changes in weather patterns already, and that they will continue in their current trend out to 2100. And we're pretty confident with those climate change models. Like, 10 years ago, there might have still been a little bigger room for discussion or like, are we really headed in this direction? And I know you've had Joel Finnis from Memorial University on, and he will continue to...
Climatologist who,
exactly. And he will say, we've known forever. And so we're quite confident in the data. We're seeing that the modeled projections are matching, and sometimes the models are even underestimating.
Yeah, exactly. It's worse in real life than what they estimated.
Yeah, and every year at this point, last year was forest fires and flooding. We're looking at flooding again in Badger, coastal issues in Trepassey. Like those happened last week. And so we're seeing that. And so for context, prior to 1995, I think it was, there wasn't a single day over 25 degrees in St. John's. And now we're over 30 days are over 25 degrees. And our precipitation patterns are changing to such a degree that we're having more rain on snow events. We're having longer periods of dry weather and then more intense storms, which is an issue for several reasons. Like, it's an issue for keeping water on the land and whatever agriculture we do here, and like the stability of the forest ecosystems. But it's also an issue for the sizing of the infrastructure. So when you have like a huge downpour, the pipe is only so big. It can only handle so much volume over a defined period of time. And if we get more rain than that, that's when things flood. That's when things back up. And when you have that amount of rain on top of things that are frozen, then there's no way for it even to get into the ground or through the infrastructure systems that we may have in place. So you like, it's a negative feedback cycle in the sense that like the issues compound with each other to create fairly significant public safety issues from a municipal perspective, but then also from a homeowner household perspective. You're looking at higher risks of floods, higher risk of wildfire, higher risk of high bills, and a major discomfort in the summer, because most St. John's and elsewhere, like most homes in the province, do not have any sort of cooling capacity.
Well, same as I did. So for This is Newfoundland and Labrador podcast, which I also host, but also on this show, we talked about it, talking to farmers about the fact that they're like, barns in Newfoundland and Labrador were not built historically for weather to get above 25 degrees. Yet here we are. Now that's a livestock issue, but that's a food security issue.
Sure is.
And then on the human livestock side of things, like us, our houses, same thing, not built for it. So this is also part of this conversation today of being comfortable, keeping the cold air in when it's hot outside, and the heat in when it's cold outside.
Yeah.
And then the yo-yoing, which is becoming more pronounced.
Yeah.
With climate change.
Exactly. So when another reason why we stress more insulation and a better building envelope, like that's the language that we use, is because more insulation within a wall assembly means more stable conditions both in the wall assembly and in the house. So your house is more resilient to those yo-yoing in temperatures. It also maintains a lower maintenance cost, because if you're able to keep temperatures more stable, you have less moisture issues within your wall assembly and within your house in general. And it also, going back to sort of the money, it will increase the value of your house long term because it is more durable as a built entity, right? So the Canadian Appraisers Association shows that a home that has better energy efficiency, I think they call them energy conservation measures, but like, so a really good wall assembly, like very efficient heating and mechanical equipment, will sell for anywhere between 4 and 12% more than an equivalent home without those features in it. And so that's part of the logic with the financial planning and part of the complexity of the decision making around what do I do to improve energy efficiency in my home, is that this can be part of your retirement planning or part of your investment strategy, but like all of the ducks have to be identified, and then you have to line them up in the order that fits your household, right?
I find with extreme weather, I'm looking at my house so much more intently these days. Like, I've never looked at my shingles more in my life, or anyone's, than this stretch we've been through.
Wind,
It's like I think I'm watching it more than Netflix, right? I'm outside just being like, oh, no, they're still there. And I look up, my neighbor lost a couple. For one up the road lost more. It's just, it's bonkers how windy it has been. Folks, you're listening to The Signal. I'm Adam Walsh. Today on the show, we're talking about how to make our homes more energy efficient, ways to do that, why it's important to understand it. And we're talking about financial literacy, because improvements for your home to make it more energy efficient cost money. So how do you afford that? Do you take out a loan? Are there ways of perhaps not having mortgage insurance, going with other types of insurance? If you've got questions for us as you're listening, or comments, give us a call, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Text us 709-327-8206, the signal at cbc.ca. You'd think I'd remember those numbers now and not have to look at the page, but I still do. Rob.
I just wanted to interject something that I just thought of. So I actually used to be in real estate when I lived in British Columbia. But what Ashley's saying, I think, also resonates in another way. And I only just thought of it just now. So let's say you want to sell your house. What's the first thing everybody does when they go to sell their house? They improve it as much as they can.
Yeah, because
They
typically you paint it, you do stuff, and the stuff you've been waiting to do, like for example, we got a couple of boards on the outside of ours that need to be dealt with. If we're going to sell our home, I'd fix those right away.
Or it's dated.
Yeah.
Or you need to change the bathroom. Or 9 times out of 10, most people that are about to sell their house have either gone through a significant renovation or updating, or they are contemplating doing it in order to get the most value for their home. So, I think that really speaks to whether it's energy efficiency issues because you're living in the home, or whether it's that you're trying to, maximize your value in selling the home. I think that it's an equal playing field, and I think that sometimes we can lose sight of the fact that it's easier for us to say, oh, I got to take out that yellow bathtub if I'm thinking of selling the house, or that blue sink, because those things are important in that way. But I think that this is just as important with regards to, I have an $800 a month power bill, and if I had solar, maybe that would bring it down to $200, and that savings could offset what it costs me to do that. And there are ways of doing that without fundamentally changing everything you do in your life. There's products and services. There's other providers that can step in to help with those things. But again, in my opinion, personally and professionally, is that the biggest barrier to entry is unbiased opinion.
Yeah.
Speaking to somebody that's not trying to sell you a product, and that is there to actually say, well, here are 4 different ways that you could do that. Not telling them which way to do that, because that's the only way that individual company does business. But there are things out there that you have access to. But again, finding that access, finding that ease of access is very difficult in Canada. It is extremely difficult.
A lot of times when you want money, let's say you're doing something for an upgrade for your, you get energy audit done, and here's the range of what you can do, and you're like, you know what, actually, I'm thinking about the new Windows option because my house is kind of old and I'm just looking at, can't quite afford it right now. Some places will be like, here's a line of, get a line of credit, but the juice, which is I think the technical term, the juice can be pretty potent. If I want it watered down for the interest, lower interest, what are some things to think about as opposed to like a higher interest line of credit? If people and also thinking about if you've got equity into your home and maybe you're approaching actual full home ownership too for that range. Yeah,
and again, a lot of it too is getting stuck in the weeds. So a lot of lenders, there's 2 major ways that you can borrow money in Canada. One is through an unsecured line of credit, and the other is through a secured line of credit. So essentially, a secured line of credit means that there's an asset that's being used to guarantee that loan. So, for example, if you default, they have access to remedy by sale, and therefore either covering the loan or getting back what they want. Unsecured is the most popular. So if you go into any lender in Canada, you are going in for an unsecured line of credit. The other issue is that the unsecured line of credits are almost always compound interest. And compound interest essentially means that you pay interest on interest. So it means that the rate that you're being charged is being charged semi-annually. So it's on top of one another. Whereas there are other solutions in Canada, now this one's going to be shocking to hear on the radio, that have been around for over 30 years, where you can borrow money at simple interest.
I like the sound of simple.
Well, the reason why simple interest is so important is because you can take the math. So, for example, if you were to get a loan in a simple interest loan for $20,000, it would cost you the interest piece, so just the interest to carry that debt, is around $75 a month. Now, that number is shocking to people because that's unheard of. You don't hear that in the normal lexicon of the conversation around lending. And the reason you don't hear it, a lot of it, is because it doesn't make as much money for the lender.
Yeah.
And that really is what it comes down to is, there's a product to be sold. Don't worry about the solution. Don't worry about the case. It's the product. Sell the product.
So how do I get a simple loan? Or simple interest thing that you're talking about?
Yeah. So,
again, to be really specific.
No, for sure. So simple interest is always secured.
Yeah.
So it must be secured against an asset. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to switch everything that you're doing. So, for example, let's say you've lived in the same home for 10 plus years and you have the real estate value has increased in Newfoundland. We all know that, right? Yeah. So if you've had a house for 10 years in Newfoundland, you've built up quite a lot of value inside of that home. So you could technically leave your mortgage where it is. Don't worry about any of that. You can stay with CIBC, BMO, whomever you're with, and you can get a simple interest line of credit attached to that in second position is what we call it. Now you can do the whole thing, but I'm saying for people that don't want change but try to find access to revenue, that's a way to do it. So you could just tie on a $20,000 simple interest loan to the back end, borrow that money, take the savings for whatever it causes. So in my example, you go from an $800 bill to a $600 bill. You've got some savings in there that you could utilize to pay down that debt in probably 3 years. It doesn't take a lot because there's no payment requirement. So essentially, you dictate how much is principal reduction. So if you want to put $1,000 down on a loan that only charges $75, then you're getting $925 wiped off the principal immediately. So all of that, you can pay an extra 20%. That all goes away. All those normal rules that we live within the system, that all goes away. So and you can even set it so it's non-readvanceable, meaning once it's gone, it's gone. You can't have it back. There's a lot of terms and conditions that you can utilize to do that. But again, you have to be in a certain position in order to access that type. Now, 9 times out of 10, if you go into a lender and start talking about those things, they will recommend an unsecured line of credit.
Yeah.
I've had clients go into lenders. I'm being politically correct. And
Your face was speaking to me, though.
yeah, it's hard not to just blast the truth out there to the world, but this stuff keeps me up at night.
Hey, this is my job. Every day I have those feelings.
Yeah, so I had a client literally last month
Yeah.
go into a lender, put me on speakerphone in the office so that I could tell them what they needed to do. And it still took her 3 hours to get them to do it. Because it's so counterintuitive to their business model.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Canadians are victims to business models that do not help them. They help the business. And I know we live in a capital society, and I'm not saying capitalism is bad, but I'm saying that with the lack of education of finance in Canada and the fact that most lenders have gone from being partners to predators in the last 30 years, Canadians really need to find resources that are going to aid them in answering those questions, getting those simple interests. I can't tell you how many people go to the bank and set up a tax-free savings account, and they literally walk out with a savings account. And I meet them 5 years later, and they've earned 50 cents. But again, I believe the worst case scenario was the government calling it a savings account. It should have been called a tax-free investment account.
Right.
Because you are allowed to hold investments. So you could be earning 5, 6, 12% inside of that. But it's the optics, it's the learning, it's the education, and the business model that says if a client comes in and asks for a tax-free savings account, just give them the savings account. So, that's the part that gets me.
Oh, I mean, Comrade Tizzard, I think you're making a lot of sense here.
Don't do that. Oh,
I
my
was going to
God.
say, talk about losing your marbles.
My bucket's got a lot of holes.
All the marbles.
We got a text in, though, as well, before we get back to the energy efficiency side of the conversation, still on the saving money side. Someone texted in, what about reverse mortgages?
No.
Why?
They're all was it Tom Selleck was the guy for that for a while? Remember Tom Selleck was
Magnum
doing ads?
PI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
No.
mustache would convince you of anything.
I mean, hey.
The biggest thing is there's other options out there that do not require you to give up the asset. Those reverse mortgages, and again, I'm going to get a lot of flack over this.
Yeah.
I'm sure I will, and I'm sure there's a case to be made for both. In my opinion, it depends on the situation, number one.
Yeah.
Okay? If that's your last ditch effort, you have no other options. Again, the problem is most people come to that because they don't know where to get information. They don't know who to trust. They don't know who to talk to because the lending business in Canada, the financial business in Canada is very predatory. It is not helpful. So in that type of a mortgage, essentially you're giving the property to a third party at a fixed cost, and they are going to give you revenue for that property. But as we have seen, your property in Newfoundland has probably increased by 10 to 12% year over year. So you're going to lose out on those equitable gains. But again, it comes down to credit rating. It comes down to, your total debt service ratio. There's a lot of factors that impact your ability to make change within your own financial world. But if you're only getting the information from the source of the loan, then it's often biased. And I think that that's the biggest problem is trying to get through the bias, trying to get through because people aren't going to pick up a book and read about how mortgage amortization works. They're not going to read, they don't understand those things. And the system is geared to help clients that already have assets, that already have money. My son is in the industry now. He's going to be third generation. We're a small family company. We're a brokerage in Newfoundland and Labrador. We live here. And I'm having him focus on kids just starting in university. Because, even if you go through university and you are a doctor, or if you go through and you are a very, very highly educated person, the amount of business knowledge and financial knowledge that you get by the end of your degree is possibly one course, unless you're taking business courses. Yeah. And even then, it's not necessarily related to day-to-day things that Canadians really need to know. We don't learn it in high school. We don't, when I was in high school, we learned about balancing our checkbook and printing our book off, but I don't even think they do that anymore. So where do you find this stuff? That's the real problem, and how do you quantify that information that it's not biased? Because it's almost always product focused.
Yeah, my Canadian Studies double major didn't cover it, which you can't do anymore. I also majored in poli-sci, as I mentioned yesterday on the show. Here's a note. From Luke Quinton. Hey, Adam, listening to the show now. Would be worth asking about the role of new windows. Usually energy efficiency experts will tell folks that replacement is basically the last thing they recommend because the new windows are much more expensive and they may need replacing before you get your investment back, i.e. when the seals break. Air sealing and improving the insulation around windows is the thing that works best. If you have one pane of glass, putting storms on a hinge basically gets you the same efficiency as a sealed unit. This is from a heritage perspective. Thoughts?
Broadly speaking, yes, I agree. So when we talk about improving the building envelope, the conversation is always around, like, if your windows are only 5 years old, it doesn't make sense to replace them regardless, right? Because, like, your windows a good quality window will last you 20 years. So, like, we're not advocating for, like, just throw the baby out with the bathwater and get all new stuff. It's always part of, like, from a business perspective, you call it capital planning, right? So, like, you put away a little bit of money to pay for the thing later and that kind of thing, which doesn't always happen on a residential level, but we do think about that. So windows from an energy perspective are some of the, like, lower energy savings kinds of things because like your heat loss through your wall assembly is a function of surface area. So, like, you have more wall than you do window. Right? And so you're
unless
much
your
better.
house is really fancy, but anyways.
So that's fair. Yeah. The average fair. The average house is gonna see that. So air sealing is one of the top recommendations, but just because we talked about, so we were looking at, we've seen lots of reports. So air changes per hour is one of the metrics that you will find on your homeowner information sheet when you do an energy audit. And so air changes per hour quite literally means how many times the entire air volume of your house changes in 1 hour. So, going from, like, bucket with a screw lid to a colander, right? So a really good tight envelope will be somewhere around 2-ish air changes per hour. And we've seen things, I think the highest I've seen is 17 air changes per hour, but it's not at all uncommon to be somewhere between 7 and 9. So you have to think about that, right? So, like, if you think about the entire air volume of your house changes 7 to 9 times per hour, and you're heating all the air. You're heating all of it.
And on the extreme end, it's like 17.
Well, we've seen 17, and that was in one of 30. The. Oh, have you seen 30?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like,
Does it have windows?
Can you stand up in this house as this is happening is my question.
Yeah. And so the next metric in that same box will give you, like, an equivalent area, right? And so it'll say this would be the same as having, like, a basketball-sized hole in your living room wall, right? Like, that's the idea. Like, that's the logic. And that comes from the corners and around your windows and in attic hatches and in crawl space hatches and your electrical outlets on exterior walls. Because if your vapor barrier isn't sealed to them, then the air gets through. And so there are things that folks can do if you're, like, even a little bit handy, like, can operate the right end of a screwdriver kind of thing. Like, you can put gaskets onto your electrical outlets. You can pull the trim off your windows, and you can low expansion, folks, spray foam around your windows, or you can put in things called backer rod, which is essentially like a foam rod, like a is that it's not a cone, because a cone is short of one. And sorry, I'm having like a moment here. But anyway, it's like a round strip of like spongy foam stuff.
I know what that is.
Okay.
I know
that
nothing.
you can seal around. And so all of those things seal up the air changes per hour in your home. And those are all things that you can do yourself or like at handyman type rates. Beyond that, you're starting to look at sort of more major things. So if you're in a situation where your siding needs to be replaced, then it absolutely makes sense to take your siding off, put 2 inches to 4 inches of rigid XPS insulation on your exterior. And then you put new windows in at that point. If you need to, you can box them out. And by doing that, you also address air sealing. So it's when we talked about the technical things that you can do, then you have to talk about the sensible prioritization of those things. And then how are you going to pay for any of those things, right? And this is what we look at when we talk to people about the money isn't something that we offer as like specific guidance, which is why we were so excited when Rob was invited to the show, because it's a major part of the consideration. But we're not here to give people advice, and we're not biased either. We're 100% funded through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in partnership with the City of St. John's, and so we don't have a horse in your race. We're here with the sole purpose of improving the homes and the lives and the pocketbooks of the residents of the City of St. John's. And so when you start to look at the complexity of those decisions, when you're going to sell your house, do you plan to sell it in 5 years? Well, then you have to think about, if I put $30,000 into my building envelope, am I going to get that out in the end? Maybe. Like if we're looking at $300,000 house, and if it's 4 to 12%, and we're looking at 7.5-ish, then like your home is gonna go up by somewhere in the order of $75,000 to $10,000 on the sale price.
Yeah.
Plus the savings that you're going to get and the comfort and the improved building durability. So things make a lot of sense. You just have to look at it a little more holistically. It's a complex decision to make. And so what we want to do is ensure that homeowners have a technical understanding of the options, which is the energy audit, a clear understanding and a discussion, which is the kind of conversations that folks have with Morgan about how to prioritize in the context of their household, and then how to move forward and how you pay for that. You get 3 contractor quotes. You look at what your options are. We'll help you find grants. If you're income qualified, you can get some additional grants that don't look like energy efficiency things, but can be stacked together to reduce cost overall. And so we're trying to enable, because all of these take time and research and knowledge. And so if you have no one there even to explain that like your instincts are right, right? Because often folks, their instinct is right, but they have no intuitive way of knowing whether that's right or not, right? And that's what we're here for, to help people through so like I know what my options are. Now, I kind of understand that I could order them like this way, and I see how much it's roughly going to cost. Are there grants available? How can I do this? And how does that line up with my life and retirement planning and estate planning and all of those things? So,
yeah, and for everyone, it's different. Right?
Everyone, it's
depending
different.
on what, are you staying in your house forever? Do you have an older house which has the really thin walls, or you got one that's newer with the standard walls that we have?
Or if you think of selling, I mean, if you're looking at 2 comparable properties in the same price point, and one of them has energy bills 70% less than the other.
Yep.
I know that when I buy homes in the past, like I'm not a real estate investor. I would ask, can I see the bills?
Yeah.
Most people do.
Oh, we do that. Yeah, we did that for ours.
Right.
We bought ours 2 years ago, and it was like, okay, what's it costing to heat this thing, and how's that looking?
Exactly. So, I mean, if again, it goes back to you're investing in the property for the now, you're investing in the property for the future, and it's no different than, again, cosmetic upgrades versus these sorts of things that. I mean, people buy value, right? It's not always about price; it's about value. And I mean, if you've got 2 houses at $400,000 and one of them has 70% less energy expenses, I know which one I'm going to buy. So I think it's very important.
100%.
So whether you're selling or whether you're buying, it's going to be a precipitating factor.
Yeah, and then with these upgrades, right? If so, that extreme example of like 17 to 30 times of air moving through, like once you start making changes, the heat bill, the electricity, I mean, that's going down right away. Like once, and it can be something small, like this, the smaller bit, okay, a little bit, and then something else, a little bit more, and then
Exactly.
you can get it down to a reasonable level. But it is about mapping out the price point, what you can afford, if you're saving money for it, how much you need to spend, and then looking at what you're spending each month, anyways.
Absolutely. And a lot of the conversations are that like if there's a question about whether something can be afforded within your household or not, there are generally things that one can do that have a fairly low cost, or you can get a take charge rebate for, or that kind of thing. And in those instances, there's no the only quote unquote wrong thing would be doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's important that to dispense of the notion that there's only one quote unquote right way of doing things, because that's a fallacy.
Yeah.
Your household context is going to dictate what makes sense for you to do with your home. And if you think about it like an investment and you start to make those decisions with improved financial literacy or improved access, because within the SHIFT program, we do have a partnership with NLCU, which offers an unsecured but quite low interest loan compared to the standard market loans. And the interest is lower because of the program through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. They offered what's called a loan loss reserve. So it means that the Federation for Canadian Municipalities is taking up some of the risk associated with giving an unsecured loan, and so the interest is lower. And so we have that available, but that may not be the lowest cost capital. It may not be the lowest interest rate that you could get access to. And that's why it's really important to speak to someone like Rob as part of the decision-making process, because then you can understand for your household what it looks like. Because, if you've only been in your home a couple years, that's a very different situation than you've been in your home for 30, and you're kind of looking at downsizing in 10. And, or if you're a really high earner, in theory, you could borrow against your own RRSPs, pay yourself back in a year, and it would cost you nothing. Or you could switch your entire mortgage to a home equity line of credit. And then you would end up in a situation where you're just borrowing from yourself again, but the money is tied to the house. So if you're looking to sell,
You're increasing the value.
that you're increasing the value of the house as you go. And so, but all of those things are really dependent on the household situation, and there's no one size fits all. And there's no quote unquote right way to do something that's like this thing, everyone march along the same path. That's not, it's a big fan.
Yeah.
You go in the direction that makes the most sense for you.
We're getting to final thoughts time. Morgan, final thoughts on today. So hit us with the website again, and just tell us, final thoughts.
Absolutely. So if you're interested in the program and you're a homeowner in the city of St. John's, visit us at maketheshiftnl.ca. You can also follow us on Instagram or like us on Facebook. We post every 2 to 3 days just to keep you updated on all the things that we're doing, like showing up on CBC. If you are interested in going through with an energy audit, just book an appointment and you can take a call with me, and I will bring you through the process there and let you know your options.
Thank you. Rob, final thought, 30 seconds, final thoughts.
So we're on Facebook as well through NewFound Wealth Advisors as well. My website is robtizzard.com. It's just my name. I like to keep things simple. You can reach us by text, email, or you can give us a phone call, and we're happy to help just about anybody.
Excellent. Ashley Smith. Rob didn't talk as much as I thought he was going to, so you now have 20 seconds.
I didn't want to go on too long.
Very good. I would just encourage anyone who has kind of any questions at all to reach out. So you don't, even if you're unsure if it's right for you, you don't have to be already committed to doing an energy audit to contact Morgan. You can just reach out. We can do an introductory call and we can talk about that. But I want to dispel the myth that it's only for, people who have owned their house forever, have a lot of equity, or have a lot of money even.
Yeah.
there's always things that you can do, and I know from my own personal experience, like learning and becoming more financially literate, that it isn't just for wealthy people. Like it really does change the entire foundation of how you can structure and manage finances in your household. So
Thanks for this, folks.
thank you.
All right, we're out of time. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Tomorrow, it is the first Friday of the month. Ted Blades will be in for Trivia Day, a day when we take a break from all the headlines out there and just focus on nonsense, and someone gets a book at the end of the show. Cheers.